Good evening, everyone. This is in recognition that this is to advise those present at this meeting of the Board of Education of Pinelands Regional High School District in the County of Ocean that adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. The notice has been posted in the Board of Education office, junior high school, and high school buildings. The notice was also mailed to the Press of Atlantic City and filed with the municipal clerk of Bass River Township, Eagleswood Township, Little Lake Harbor Township, and the Borough of Tuckerton. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. McVeigh.
Here.
Mr. Rossetti.
Here.
Mr. Bonnicky.
Here.
Ms. Martin.
Here.
Ms. Paklakua.
Here.
Ms. Fagan. Ms. Hannadel.
Here.
Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Mr. Dalio.
Here. Approval of minutes is recommend motion to approve of the following minutes. It would be A and B, open sessions and closed sessions, November 9th, 2021, and closed session executive session, November 9th, 2021. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
It's all in favor of approving the minutes on tonight's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Were there any abstentions?
I need to abstain. Betty Ann.
Your abstentions are noted. That motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to report of the superintendent.
Thank you, President Dalio. I do have a few things this evening. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families affected by the recent tornadoes. A lot of devastation, and they are in our thoughts and prayers. The Q&A, we had one question on that this month for the board, and it was regarding something in the high school, and Mr. Henderson was able to reach out to that person and answer it. I would like to thank our two outgoing board members, Ms. Paklatua, Mr. Bonnicky. First, Ms. Paklatua, I've enjoyed my time with you very much. I feel that you are someone that always reads everything for detail, asks important questions, and I do appreciate all of your support. So you'll be greatly missed, and thank you for your 8 years of dedication to this board.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
It's my
welcome.
pleasure to be on the board and represent Eagleswood and work with you all.
Thank you.
Excited for where you'll continue on to next.
And Mr. Bonnicky, you already received the plaques. You're not getting another one. But
Don't double dip.
no double dipping. I know that you had left at one point. You and I had a nice talk, and I really understood your perspective on a lot of things. I do appreciate all your support, and we do have a little thing that we made for you, thanking you. And we do hope that you come back for another term. But once again, thank you for your time and dedication to the board, and I appreciate all your support.
Very grateful. Thank you.
A couple more things, please bear with me. There is a required training for all current board members and new board members in January. And this will be an ethics training that we're doing through school boards. It will take place January 13th at 6 o'clock right here in this room. And we will also have the Little Lake Harbor Board of Education with us at that meeting. I will send reminders out, but if you want to just make a note, it's January the 13th, 6 o'clock right here in this room. I'm currently working with some of the administrators in our safety team on a communication plan. It will be board approved in January, and basically it's going to outline chain of command in the district. Who can someone reach out to if there's an issue? And then more importantly, it's going to go through the steps that we would follow if there was some kind of threat in the district. What are the initial things that we do? Who do we notify? And when and if parents are notified in a situation. So I'm going to draft that over the next month with some of our admin, have some of the staff members review it, and then I'm going to present that to the board in January for your approval. The Wildcat Shack is now open and ready to help our community. They have basic necessities, clothing, and hygiene supplies for those in need. If you are a family or community member that is in need of something from the Wildcat Shack, just reach out to the school via the school website. You can contact someone from the shack, and I know they're here this evening. They put a lot of their time and energy into this. But you can also contact the building secretaries, and they will put you in the right direction. So thank you to our staff for all their hard work with that. In January, I will be presenting a mid-year update on my merit goals for the year. I'm also going to be surveying staff, students, and parents for a mid-year check-in, just to see how things are going, what are we doing well, what can we be improving on. We have identified and we will be formally recognizing next month our teacher and staff members of the year. At the high school, we have Erica Moore and Patty Zilka. And at the junior high, we have Caitlin Welsh and Emily Baker. We will be formally announced, I'm sorry. We will be formally, congratulations. Want to take a shout out to our two virtual teachers, Jackie Sanford and Patty Zilka. They have been working literally around the clock to accommodate students that are on quarantine or have significant needs and need accommodations to be working virtually. Although some are repeat numbers, they have now serviced 552 students. So they're doing an amazing job, and we're so lucky that we have that service. I do meet with other school districts and their superintendents once a month, and I know that many school districts are not providing this service, so we're really lucky to have them. Lastly, I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. Hopefully we have a very, very happy new year for 2022. Looking forward to that. And I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Fresca, and she has a short presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just piggybacking on Dr. McCooley's superintendent report. I just wanted to go over with everyone some of the updates academically that we are focused on and do a December update. So a few short slides. I forgot that I can control it myself. So as you can see from this slide, September, October, and November have been extremely busy at Pinelands. Restarting and having all of our students back has been amazing. It's been wonderful, but you can see that our teachers are working very hard and our support staff to make sure that students are learning. If you can see in September, some of the things that we focus on in the area of academics and also mental health, the first thing we focus on is creating a positive environment for our students. We ask teachers to really get to know their students, to really understand them, and to really find out what makes them tick. So that is really a focus for those first couple of weeks of school. You may have heard about the Start Strong assessments this year. This was the first time that we had to implement these state mandated assessments in September. You'll see that it's in September, and we also gave some of those assessments in October. Along with that, the classroom teachers actually have to give baseline assessments for their course. So if you're teaching social studies, you have to find out where your students are starting. So again, more assessments and more finding out where your students are starting. And we also had back to school night in September where we welcomed the parents. In October, all of a sudden we have progress reports that are October 7th. Very short time, it's only 1 month to really get to know your students, get all of this baseline data, and really start to assess where they are and where we need to get them. Teachers are also, if you see on the bottom in the yellow there, have to write their student growth objectives, which is a state mandate. They have to predict where their students are going to be by the end of the year, and also write their professional development plans in October. Also, this is the time when interventions begin. We start to see that certain students may need extra help. They may need supports in many different areas. And that is when we begin that process. And November, if you noticed, this year we were very focused on making parent contacts, making sure the parents heard from us, especially students that were struggling. The end of the marking period was the 16th. Again, we're continuing to provide interventions. And right now you may hear that we're starting to have our students begin to write personalized learning goals. This was some data from last year, and I want to just call your attention as we close the marking period 1. Last year, I believe I did present to you, and we talked about students that were really struggling through COVID. I think that it was a national crisis, and we were feeling it here at Pinelands as well. If you notice, you can see that the percentages of students with 1 or more F was over 10% in almost every grade. So I just wanted to call your attention to the amount of students that had 1 or more F last year. This is where we are this year. Much better, much less students failing. It's still a crisis in our eyes, still working toward getting those numbers to 0 and making sure that students are continuing to be motivated and to continue learning. So we're going to keep a really close eye on that. You may remember that we changed some of our grading practices over the past couple of years. We changed our grading policy to a numeric system. With that, we also changed some of our practices. We also found that some of our highly competitive schools in Ocean County, Point Pleasant, are doing very similar practices as we are. So I wanted to, Mr. Bond's going to help me with this.
Let me ask you a question about
Show
grading.
you a short video.
Let's say a
Can you make
student
it
does
bigger?
not turn anything in. What grade should they receive? I've asked this question to a ton of teachers lately, and here are the most common answers I've gotten. 0, nada, nothing, a -5, an F, a K. What? Well, we're going to explore all of these answers and the mathematical consequences of these different scores on a student grade. I'm a math teacher, and I love number lines. When I'm looking at this number line, I'm looking at all of these intervals as being equally spaced. So what does this have to do with grades? Let's label all of these intervals with the traditional 0 to 100 grading scale that we're all familiar with. Let's start with the student who turns in perfect work. Where would they be on the number line? It would be over to the right, that 90 to 100. That's typically an A. So we have B, we have C, we have D. We keep going down 10 points, 10 points, 10 points. So there's our F, right? Well, that's not where we put the F. When we give a 0, we put that 0 way over there to the left on that number line. Look at that. Those nice equal intervals on the right are not continued on to the left. There's our F. Interesting. Well, let's say we continue on with these equal intervals on this number line. So I'm going to go ahead and label each one of these tick marks. Equal interval tick marks with 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 0, just to keep it mathematically consistent. So what would each of these bands represent? Well, from 50 to 60, that would be an F. 40 to 50, a G, an H, an I. 10 to 20 is a J. From 0 to 10, that would be a K. So a 0 would actually be a K. Well, I think K stands for kill grade. And I'm going to show you mathematically what giving that 0 does to a student's grade and what they have to do to overcome that. Let's mathematically investigate what happens to a grade when that 0 is entered into the grade calculation. Let's say this is a hypothetical B student. They have B level understanding of the content. They do 85 work on the first 2 assignments. So we have an 85 there, and I have an 85 here for the first 2 assignments. Up above, we are auto-calculating the grade in that green box. Now, for some reason, they get a 0 on the 3rd assignment. It was late, or a plagiarism issue, or it's just missing. Look at what happens to that grade. It's now down to an F. All right. Well, we know this kid has B level content knowledge, so they continue to do B level work. So how many more assignments will they need to score an 85 on until their grade reflects their actual content knowledge? Let's check. We have another 85. Oh, they're at a D minus. Oh, they're at a D. They're at a C. They're at, okay. Okay. Woof. They're getting tired of scoring all these 85s, but they still have a C. My goodness. We're still at a C. We're still at a C. We're still at a C. Let's just pause there for a minute. 15 out of 16 scores demonstrate solid B understanding. But because of that 1 0, this student still has a C. Let's try one more. Oh boy. Finally, they're back to the B range. They had to score 14 more 85s just to get to the bare minimum B
So if you remember from
level
last
in the
year,
grade
we
book.
did institute the 55 as the lowest score with the SALT committee. It was obviously also because of the crisis that we were dealing with, but it
Let
is
me
really,
ask you a question about grading. Let's say,
thank you. It is a good best practice, and we are communicating that to our students. They know that we have that. We are continuing to provide different PD opportunities for our teachers and continual support with that. But just to be really transparent, that is one of our practices. And again, that is a practice that one of our competing schools, Point Pleasant, uses as well. So we are in the forefront with grading and assessment. We are focused on continuing to keep students learning. If they get that 0 and they go down to that F, what do you think happens in the classroom? They become behavior problems. They get, they lose motivation. So we are focused on motivation and learning. So this is an ongoing conversation that we continually have. And I just wanted to point out to you, because grades were just calculated, how we've come to that. That was something we worked on in a committee since 2012, so almost 10 years. Okay, moving on. So students that are still struggling, I want to also point out to you all of the different interventions that we have. I know that we've talked about student success teams. We have one in both the junior high and the high school to support these students. Teachers reach out to these success teams all the time, and they say, you know what, Kim's having a problem, so she may need some extra help or support, or Amy needs, to see the mental health specialist. Whatever it is, we have supports available, and the teachers are communicating that not only to the parents, but also reaching out within our group. So it's something that is really the backbone of all of these interventions. So you will also see this year, and our ESSER funds have really helped support some of these interventions. We have after-school help on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in both buildings this year. We've never had it in the high school. So this was a first. So this is huge for our students. So please get the word out. If your kids are struggling, we have teachers available for them to help them with whatever they need support with. Also, we have lunch study times in both the junior high and the high school. The junior high has some of our student success teachers that can pull students during lunch. Some of our teachers have a packed house. So that's happening and that's working. We also have online 24/7 Tutor Me. So again, they're struggling with whatever, and we purchased this tutoring program so that students can get extra supports. And also, we have a literacy specialist that is working with our students, Ms. Welsh, our high-risk literacy students that are still struggling with literacy issues up in the high school and in the junior high. And we're really fortunate to have all of these supports. And lastly, mental health. These are all of the supports we have, and we know that we're in a mental health crisis. We have actually started a mental health task force to bring in the SBYS and the guidance counselors, and also the CST, and also all of the other pieces that we have here. We have our student assistance coordinators. We also have a student transition coordinator who's actually working with our 6th graders going into 7th grade. So that's a new position, again, funded by ESSER funds. We have a mental health specialist. And if you look at the bottom underneath mental health task force, you can see that we now have student ambassadors in the high school that the kids are truly dependent on. I need to talk to my ambassador. That's somebody who's helping the peer end of things and really helping each other. We have transition teams, and we also have student and staff yoga and meditation. So I know that that's a lot, but what are you doing for these kids? We're doing a lot, and we have all of these services, and we want you to know this so that you can communicate this out in the community and let everyone know all of these supports that we have in place. And last, I just had to highlight how many students this year are actually taking dual enrollment courses at Pinelands. I think we're leading the county. As per Henry Jackson at OCC, if you look at how many students have an OCC class right now in the high school, 241 students with 364 enrollments, and Stockton, not far behind, 90 students with 188 enrollments. Doing great things at Pinelands. That's it.
Gina. Hi. The first page again, can you go there? Yeah, so the October 7th progress report, she said the growth initiatives, objectives,
That's the teacher. The teachers have to write their SGOs, you may have heard of.
right, of course. And then the progress reports, is that state or you guys?
No, that's just saying, check your kids' grades on Encores because it's the middle of the marking period.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, we have student council here.
And where are the public relations officers for the class of 2022?
We are honored to present at public board meetings so that the board members, staff, and public can all hear about the amazing things happening at our high school.
This past month, sports, clubs, and classes have been very busy.
The art club had over 30 students attend the hydro dip pumpkins. They made zombie hands and learned how to make mushrooms with model magic. The art club members also got involved painting the set for the show Clue, which Pinelands thespians performed 2 weeks ago. The show had a great turnout and was very fun.
The English Club and FPLA Club are collaborating to set holiday cards.
Our winter sports just started and all the teams have been practicing for their first games and matches to start. A special congratulations to senior boys bowler Ethan Edwards, who just took 3rd place out of 30 in the South Jersey singles classic tournament this past Saturday.
Right, and the Cat Eye celebrated their 5th anniversary on December 1st. They continue to post daily on social media pages and are constantly thinking of new ways to acknowledge our staff.
The History Club took a historical field trip to Philadelphia on December 3rd. They went to 2 museums and a German Christmas village.
So our student government is hosting an 8 Days of Spirit Week, and we are selling hot cocoa and coffee in the comments for our senior scholars.
For the 9th year, the Spanish Club participated in the Pulsera project, which donates 100% of bracelet sales to Nicaraguan schools and families. Pinelands has been listed as second in the nation for high semesters.
The newspaper club and journalism class will be releasing their 2nd edition of the Cat Chronicles on December 22nd, and the link to their new bi-monthly newspaper can be found on our Pinelands website.
The Science Club has been working on bog restoration and trimming the paths to the bogs.
And our choir is rehearsing for the winter choral concert on December 21st, and our band is set to perform for their annual Christmas in the Commons on December 22nd.
Lastly, the senior class hosted their annual senior breakfast, where seniors decorated the tree with their personalized ornaments.
And this concludes our report for the month. We hope everyone has a great Christmas break and a great Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation for an ELL. That's for Dr. Kimberly Clark and Christine Thurber, Assistant Principal.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Kimberly Clark.
I'm Christine Thurber.
And tonight we're going to talk to you a little bit about our programmatic offerings and some data for our English as a second language program. This information is going to be provided to the state of New Jersey. So we're going to give you the detailed information about what we offer here at Pinelands. So English as a second language, we often refer to as ESL. So if you hear me saying ESL, that is our language program here. The other acronym you're going to hear a lot this evening is ELL. ELL stands for English Language Learner, and those are the students who participate in our ESL program. And English language learner is anybody who is learning the language of English. For whatever reason, they might be able to speak, but still need assistance with reading and writing. So some information about our ESL program. We currently have 8 students enrolled in our ESL program. That's the lowest number that we've had in the past 10 years. We generally average about 12 students. And I want to say our highest number in the past 10 years was 18. We do have 2 students who were exited from the program. We monitor those students for 2 years after they leave the program, just to make sure that their English language proficiency isn't something that hinders their academic achievement following exiting our ESL program. And we do have 1 ESL teacher in the district. To give you a general idea of how students become a part of the ESL program, when they register for Pinelands, their families complete a home language survey. We do a screener, a records review if they qualify in any of those areas. Then we plan a language instructional education program, which is essentially figuring out what classes they need in order to be successful, not just academically, but also in order to learn the target language of English. Once they're in the ESL program, they participate in it, and hopefully within a few years, they exit the ESL program once they meet the criteria. And one of the things that we're looking forward to, we're going to talk more about later, is then promoting them taking part in our Seal of Biliteracy program. ESL entrance criteria. So as I said, when a student registers for Pinelands, their family fills out a home language survey. Based on the information we receive on that survey, if they indicate that there is another language spoken at home and the child speaks another language, then there are 2 more steps to that process. We do a records review to see how long they've been in the country, and if they were in the country, if they have ever participated in an ESL program before. The student also participates in a screening program to determine their English language proficiency. So we use multiple measures to determine if they should be in the program. To exit the program, they have to score proficient on the ESL test, which for us is the Access for ELS test. And then we also do an observation of how they're interacting in the classroom. We look at their performance on other standardized tests, such as the NJSLA. And then we meet and do a complete records review. We meet with the student, we meet with the parent, we meet with the ESL teacher, and we determine if they should leave the program. And as I said, once they leave, we do monitor their progress to make sure they're meeting success. Other general information about our ESL program: we are an ESL program. And that just means that we offer at least 1 period a day of English as a second language instruction to our students with a certified teacher. Some of our teachers have been trained on sheltered English instruction, and this is a program that allows general education teachers to integrate strategies that will help our English language learners, our ELLs, to not just learn content in their classes such as math and science or any class, but also to learn the language of English through academic techniques. All of our ESL staff do receive professional development on ESL every year. Some of the data that the state asks for. First, they ask for our progress indicators. Because we have such a small population of English language learners, we don't get information about this. And the reason, so we have less than 20, and the reason that they don't publish information on how our students are doing in terms of their progress on certain standardized tests is because when they give that information, they don't ever want to give away a student's identity. So if we say have 1 student who is a 7th grader who participates in the ESL program, and the progress indicator says that they passed their NJSLA for English language arts, then everybody who looks at that knows that that 7th grader who was in the program passed it. And we do try to keep our students confidential. On average, our students participate in the program for 3 years before they're exited. One of the really great things that we saw as we were doing our data review is, with one exception, we have 100% graduation rate of our current and our exited English language learners, which is fantastic. Our current ESL students are mid-range proficiency. At the junior high, they tend to be mid-low. And at the high school right now, they are mid-high. And some of the targets, some of the areas that they're really working hard in and we're focusing on because of their obstacles is reading and writing. So right now our students tend to be better at speaking and listening, but we're helping them to be successful in reading and writing in the target language of English. Some really great highlights are Miss Palmer, who is our ESL teacher. She was one of the people who helped to write the New Jersey model curriculum. So that is a really fantastic thing. She was a part of that committee. And so we know that our curriculum is up to par with what is expected in the state of New Jersey since she helped to create that. One of the other great things about our program is our program, I said, to be ESL, you have to have one class a day, one period a day. Our students participate in the ESL program for 2 periods a day. They're in there for English as a second language and also for their English language arts class. So they're getting 2 periods with a certified ESL instructor. We do create individualized plans for each student, and we participate in a Title III consortium with other schools in the area because of our numbers being so small in the program. So part of our 3-year plan we submit to the state does not require anything about goals. But whenever we're doing a thorough review of our program and what's happening, we do like to look and see what can we be doing better. So based on what we saw during this 3-year cycle, number one, we're working on helping to make the translation of some of our registration documents a little easier. Through Google, you can click a button and translate anything, but if somebody's not looking on Google, we want to make sure that there's that drop down so that any of our registration information, including the home language survey, can be in their home language. Also, we want to increase the number of staff members who are trained in sheltered instruction, because this then helps our English language learners to further learn English and not just the content languages in their other disciplines. And the other thing is, one of the new things that the state of New Jersey is doing within the past few years is the seal of biliteracy. And we have not had a lot of students participate in this, or we haven't had any, but I'm going to have Ms. Thurber speak a little more on this because it is something that we would like to encourage some of our students to do who qualify.
So the amazing thing about the seal of biliteracy is it's not just for the ESL students. These are for our students who are using dual enrollment opportunities in foreign language. And now we have an AP Spanish that we offer here at the high school. And these students can pass some criteria and take some assessments and receive this seal of biliteracy. With that, they are able to have job opportunities where, you know, especially being virtual, there's opportunities worldwide. So having that seal broadens their horizons as to where they can apply. And also when applying to college, having that seal of biliteracy can lead them in a path that can continue learning other languages.
So that concludes our presentation, just giving you a little information about what's being submitted to the state, as well as some of the goals that we have created for the ESL program for the next 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to board work session, board forum. This be a good time to I can address if any questions from the board. I see we do have some administrators here as far as the Pride incentive. If any board member have any questions about it, we do have some people that worked on it.
What was that, sorry?
The Pride incentive. Does anyone at the board have any questions at all?
Could
Mr.
you repeat
Walensky,
that,
could you-
Mr. Dalio?
What's that?
Could you repeat that
Yeah, that's-
statement you
yeah,
just made?
it's the Pride incentive, and Mr. Molesky is one of, I believe, was on that committee over the summer who worked on it. That's the incentive that's the students have as far as incenting, getting for good grades. Do you have any
Sounds like a
questions?
great program.
Yeah, so just to give you a quick background, like the Pride program we have is, it's a type of behavior, PBIS program, positive behavior intervention support program. Yeah, if you have any questions about it, I know Dr. McCooley has shared information with you, but I can answer any questions you can have.
Yeah, when did it start? When did you guys get together?
So we put it together over the summer. We had a number of teachers who came together over the different meetings, and we put the program together and we implemented it at the beginning of the year.
Thank you. So we implemented at the beginning of the year. We met with the students at the beginning of the year for our opening day assemblies to introduce it to them, explain it to them. It's kind of tied into our idea of student in good standing. It's a way for us to recognize students who are really exceeding our expectations in the school for their behavior, for their academics, and for their attendance. So we needed to get through the first marking period to officially get the ball rolling on it. So we officially rolled it out with the conclusion of the first marking period in just these past week.
That's the reason for the rollout, is the second, going into the second marking period.
Yes, we needed the grades established in the first marking period. Yep.
I'm wondering if I did, prior to the logging on to OnCourse at the beginning of the year, I did read about it. I'm wondering now, after speaking with my daughter, when she came home from school last week, I'm wondering if the identifiers, the labels, the color, the green, the gold, and the white, I'm wondering if there could, I know the program's been rolled out. I'm wondering though, if there could be another way for you to identify the level of reward. Am I
So,
saying that correctly?
Yeah, so there are
Just
three
don't
different.
know about, well,
Yeah.
I do know about it. I really would like to see a different identifier other than.
The green, gold, and white. Yeah, I mean, the three tiers that we have, I mean, each of those three tiers, the thing is, all of those students, regardless of whatever the sticker on their ID might be, they are exceeding our expectations. So there was different criteria, the gold being the highest, then the green, then the white. But all three of those tiers are for students who are exceeding our expectations. So they're all worthy of recognition in our program.
I think the program is wonderful. We need more. I mean, you answered the call, more positive interaction, everything. Is there any way there could be a different?
Then colors, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Different than colors?
Different than colors, and also
What's offensive about colors, or what do you think?
not so much the color. Well, yeah, the color, I would say, where it's labeled, it's put on there, the sticker is put on their ID, their ID tag. And even though they were instructed to keep your ID
I think,
in. I'm
yeah,
just
I believe that one of the
wondering, in your
things,
backpack,
one of the
it's
things
just
that had
my
come out,
opinion to
yeah.
have a different way to identify.
To identify them, yes. One of the things I think we want to clear up is when we handed out the student IDs, they had lanyards on them. And I think people got the impression that the students were expected to wear the IDs. They don't have to do that, they don't have to do that, but they are expected to have the IDs on their person when they're in school. So, but they don't have to share that
They
information.
absolutely should have the ID.
But we could, I mean, that's a discussion we can certainly have too. If there's a
Just
different way or a better way.
different way to, as an administrator or a teacher, however you're going to recognize that student. I just wish there was a different way to go about it, other than knowing what color their sticker is on their ID.
Thank
The
you.
stickers represent different levels of
Different levels.
being good.
Sure, that whether there was different tiers, different categories. So the gold tier was the highest tier, might have been all A's, a 98% attendance rate and 0 discipline points. And then the green tier was slightly under that and the white tier was slightly under that.
So established criteria.
So that's the school colors, right?
The green and the gold, yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out.
Mr. Molesky also surveyed all the students after the rollout. He surveyed each class individually, and they were able to ask questions and give feedback. And primarily, we looked at the results today as an admin team. The biggest issue from the student perspective was not the color, it was that attendance was bringing some of them down from the top tier to the other tier. And the administration did it great because of COVID and because of this unique situation, that they did waive anyone that filed an appeal that felt they should be on a higher tier. They were able to advocate for themselves, and they went to the administrator and they filed an appeal. And I believe there were 60 students, they all won that appeal. Because
Yeah.
we do agree that attendance is difficult right now because of COVID.
It was a challenge. When we originally did the tiers, we of course screened out things. We tried to focus on what we would consider typically to be unexcused absences. But yeah, every student, there's a backstory to every student. So the students were all given the opportunity to appeal where their standing was. So, and in just about every case, those appeals were granted. So, and attendance was the
Yeah,
big
and
concern.
the point being, the students didn't have a concern with the color as much. They did about the attendance and the fairness of that. And we are teaching them how to advocate for themselves, and they have been doing that.
So are we reevaluating that attendance criteria going forward?
Yes.
We are, yes.
What's the purpose of them having it on? Like, they don't have to wear it, but they're expected to have it on. them. So
They
what
should
is the
have it on
purpose
them.
of, like, having it on.
They should have it on them just because, not every staff member who might be on duty in the building, I know the students, so they're really expected to be able to show ID so that we can confirm who they are if need be. And then, of course, if you're talking about after-school events for admittance to that, they would need their IDs for that kind of stuff.
So if those things, because I saw the chart and the breakdown, but some of those things like happen in school, like, like going to a certain room or classroom or start a certain activity during the school day.
If we were to have a pop-up event or something like that, or one of the incentives, yes, they would want to have the IDs on them to show to get admittance to that or show their eligibility for that, yes.
Under the rewards, the reference of end-of-year trip, is that the senior trip? Or
No, that's
what is
different.
the end-of-year trip?
Different from the senior trip, that's something that's still in the works.
Okay, so it's something that's, again, it's the optional piece, that's the bonus of the Pride tiers and achievements, but it's not exclusion from and discounted rates for the senior trip.
No, correct. The senior trip, the students all still have the ability to participate in that, yes.
But an average student would be excluded from whatever this special trip is planned.
The trip that's there is, I think, for the gold tier, the highest tier, there is a trip plan, but the other tiers, I think we have it set up so that there's like a lottery where they would be eligible to attend as well.
So I gotta say, for a student that may struggle academically, I'm not familiar with what the tier criteria is, but a student that may be struggling academically that truly is doing the best that they can, I would hate to see a student miss out because they're not your typical A student.
We have a lot of
Rated
different
on
incentives.
academics, it could be a very strong student, they're just a average B- student.
So the thing is, the tiers are set up by grade average. So even if a student was struggling in, say, one or even two classes, they could still meet the criteria to be on one of the tiers. And the vast majority of our students are on one of the three tiers right now.
So it's each marking period. You then base their improvement from the prior, for that particular student from the prior marking period and see if there's growth?
Each marking period is a brand new marking period, like a clean
So
slate.
it's not a student that's in AP classes going up against a child who, is struggling. That's not how you're doing it.
Correct. It's just strictly their grades for whatever classes they might be taking, whether they're taking AP classes or whether they're taking anything else.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said most students are on one of the tiers. There are students that aren't eligible to be on any of the tiers?
There would be some students who are not necessarily on a tier, right? Because remember, we're recognizing the students who are exceeding our expectations.
Sorry, one more question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Walensky. One of the things I remember seeing, it said something about discounts in the community.
That's something we were working on to maybe reach out to local businesses to see if we could set up something like that.
So
yes.
that's not established yet. That's
Still working on it.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So I gotta say, I trust the administration and I trust that if, it needs to be, the program needs to be tweaked, but you'll take a look at the criteria and it's all done for the purpose of positive reinforcement. I have no doubt about that. It's not, and I don't have a student in the district currently, so I'm not familiar personally with how this is, but it's striking me as odd that the vast majority of students are in one of these three tiers if we're supposed to be exceeding expectations. I would think like exceeding expectation is a middle ground. Some are exceeding, some are not, but I don't know where the levels start, but it seems odd to me that there's only very few that are not tiered. It just seems like, are they really exceeding expectations?
I think, and that's where the tiers come into play, right? Because they might be exceeding them in different ways or to different extents. But I think part of the discussion that we were having when we put this together was we spend a lot of time, focusing on our top performing students. We spend a lot of time focusing on our lowest performing students. We wanted to try and find a way to acknowledge what everybody else is doing. So I think this is a way to do it.
This is also a way to understand. It's also mirrored off the Renaissance project.
Yes, which was a program that used to be, it was before my time at the high school, but the Renaissance program was something that existed here for many years. And so it's fairly similar to that, almost identical, I think.
That's
to what
that,
we used to do.
that's, again, as I understand it, that's nationally recognized. But other states are using that, similar to what we're doing.
The other thing,
Yes.
Karen, is as you said, we tweak it. This is baseline data, so the criteria could change. At this point, we want the students to be motivated to be one a part of this new initiative. So in time, we may raise the criteria a little bit, like you said, it making more difficult to get it. But at this point, we want kids to be a part of this, want them to feel like, it's positive and that there are incentives included in it.
And there were 3 tiers, right? A, B, and C. 3 tiers. So the
Gold,
majority.
white,
is-
and green.
Yeah, so the majority is in one. That makes
Right, they're all spread out in the 3 tiers, they're all, yeah.
3 different categories.
That are all three are exceeding expectations.
Well, they're all exceeding within that category, right? I don't know if I can say that, but they're meeting or exceeding that category.
Exceeding,
I think
right.
Meeting is probably part of it.
Your
They're all
gold,
peer.
your gold students might be exceeding them to the highest level, but your white students are exceeding them as well, but maybe not to the extent of the gold students.
You can't ask one child to compete with an AP student, it just doesn't go, you can't gauge it that way. Wouldn't be fair to the student.
It's still right, and it's still just based largely on letter grade when you're talking about the academics. So whether they're in an AP class or another class, that doesn't necessarily become a factor for them. Every kid has the opportunity to be in the tiers.
Let's start.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Swansky.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I bring up a different issue? I did go to, I had the legislative committee on Saturday, but it was so full. And there's so many things going on, I wasn't able to write up a, I'll email it to you all. And then if you have questions, let me know. And if I can't answer them, I can try to find the answers. One thing I wanted to ask, Nick, the audit here was moved again.
So they changed, we're not gonna have all the information to Gatsby, they have to be able to turn that around at the state level, so they pushed the deadline for the audit submission would be December 5th, and it's got lead back to, I believe, late January 25th. So the auditors will present our audit at the January.
Oh, it's still up.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Are we in board forum?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just, going back to the 55 grade minimum, I was not a sitting member when, I was at the meeting, but I was not a sitting member. So I guess just some clarification as to, does that not need to be in our grading policy as approved by the Board of Education? I hear the word practice and I hear the word policy. So it's not in the grading policy, but it's now the practice since it was rolled out in that meeting. And I guess my question is for Mr. Donio, if other districts are doing this, is it in their board approved policy?
Short answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have to take a look at that.
Okay.
And come back to the board and say whether, from Kansas and other districts that are implementing that process.
Right, because there's other schools that are doing this. They're making a minimum 55. Correct?
Yes.
But SALT is an independent.
So in other districts, I have seen it as a regulation as well. And I use the example, I'm not sure if it's comparable, but like, for example, in Little Lake Harbor at one point went to standard-based grading. Our policy states that we have to have a manner of assessment and a manner of presenting grades. It doesn't say what that is. It doesn't say if that's an A, 100, standard. So we have the 1 to
Yeah.
4
And,
standard.
and I would need, what I want to do is just look at our grading policy because we have a board approved grading policy. Maybe we should revisit that and maybe get some information as to what other districts are doing in terms of if they're rewriting their grading policy, then that's one thing,
So the policy currently says, and I'm just paraphrasing, that we have to have a method of assessing and grading. It doesn't say what that exactly has to be. So that's where the committee
Okay.
met and they came up with a practice.
Right.
of what they
I mean, and I think this rolled out when I still had a student at Pinelands. And he learned what assignments he had to do and he was a really good student and what he didn't have to do. So I question the practice a little bit. I'm a little hesitant to say, hey, this is a great thing. I see the presentation that we have a lot less Fs on our docket. Maybe that's maybe, I mean, is it because kids are really learning more? Are we just giving kind of grades away and saying, hey, they're doing really good? So I think it's a question we as a board need to answer. And if we do need to add that to our policy, just a good question would be, let's find out what we need to do.
Like I said, we'll take a look at your policy. We'll
Maybe visit it in the
canvas other
January
Districts and come
meeting.
back and report to you.
That'd be great. I appreciate it.
We can
Thanks
always
for the
look- we can always
information.
look at it, of course. We can always look at it, of course.
Yeah, just take a look at it.
Thank you.
But other than that, thanks for the presentations tonight, and it's great. Appreciate it.
And moving on to a reorganization meeting. It's Tuesday, January 4th, 2022 at 5:30 PM. We have 2022 board meeting dates. And moving on to new business, we have a draft. Want to discuss that?
If I could, just wanted to let everybody know that the board meeting dates are tentatively scheduled. They're going to be on Mondays in 2022. And they're going to be the second or third Monday of the month, with the exception of April, which is a Tuesday, Wednesday meeting date because of our requirements to adopt the budget at the April meeting. So I'll send everybody tomorrow a table of proposed meeting dates for the year, and you let me know if you have any issues, and we'll tweak them up.
Can you tell me the day again? I missed it.
Mondays. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
No, thank you. So as far as new business, the draft, the school calendar.
So yeah, the school calendar is attached. As you'll see, it's similar to this year. We also mirrored it with the Lake Harbor so parents can be on a consistent schedule if they have students in both districts. The biggest thing I'd like to point out is we built snow days into the calendar, so our graduation date does not change. It's difficult because of project graduation and scheduling the stage and everything else. So if it were to snow, it's very clearly listed on the calendar where we would take those days from. So for example, Memorial Day weekend isn't necessarily going to be that long for staff if there's snow days. So it's clearly outlined on the calendar which days would be removed if there were in fact snow days.
That's it.
So you know that you shared it with Little Egg. I would ask that you share it with the other sending districts as well, the superintendents, just so that they have the option to take that into consideration when developing theirs as well.
Okay, moving on to old business, Mr. Brown.
I believe we did, Karen, but I want to triple check. 'Cause I know
Yeah,
Janet,
if you have
Janet at one
just-
point asked, so I think we did, but I want to triple check.
For my time here at Pinelands, I did serve on Eagleswood, so I can appreciate from their perspective, it's helpful.
Yep.
You have students in both schools to try to coordinate.
So real quick update on the feasibility study. The regionalization committee is going to reconvene in mid-January to continue the committee's study and outreach efforts. As you guys may be aware, we have a number of new key administrative members from Tuckerton. Janet Gangemi retired, so there's a new superintendent and business administrator at Tuckerton. Debbie Snyder is moving on from Eagleswood, and so there's a new business administrator and superintendent going in Eagleswood. And so we're allowing the new leadership teams to get in before we reconvene the committee's efforts. Remember, at our January reorg meeting, this Board of Education will select the members that will represent the Pinelands Board of Education in the regionalization committee for 2022. So that's all we have on regionalization. They
So
also,
Eagleswood's getting a new BA too.
yes,
Oh, wow.
their other BA moved to another district. Yep. Then a quick update on the dam. There's a motion on tonight's agenda to approve a loan application to the Division of Dam Safety. This loan would pay for any rehabilitation project at the bog and the associated dam. And the goal of that project would be to improve water quality and make the waterway a better place for educational and recreational activities. The vote tonight is we're not binding to a loan. We're just, it's the board's authorization for us to make an application. Any approval would be a separate motion for the board to consider. So I want everybody to be aware, we're not binding you debt. I want to thank the members of the committee. We've really made some nice progress over the last couple of weeks, and we have staff, students, residents, board members, members of the local environmental community, all on this as being a part of moving this effort forward, and they've been awesome to work with. We've made some good progress as a group the last couple of months, and I also want to thank the team from JC Near and Ducks Unlimited for their assistance. They've been awesome in the last couple of months of the project. So hopefully we got some good, exciting news coming in the next few months on that. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Ms.
Can
Brown.
I piggyback on that real quick too? Nick should be thanked for his time and energy. I'm sure there's not too many business administrators or business administrators who are familiar with the ins and the outs of Critter Dog. But he is, the people that he has brought together for this, in this meeting and the team are really smart, intelligent people. And Nick has not left any rock unturned to try to find somebody that can help us with expertise and again with funding. Nick, kudos.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Moving on to residents
Before
forum.
we move on, we
Go
had
ahead.
tabled an agenda item last board meeting. It was a policy related to confidentiality. I noticed it's not on this agenda. Is that just still work in progress?
So what we were discussing, and we talked about this with Mr. Dalio, we do have a couple new board members coming on in January. After looking at the policy that was presented, it's much different than other policies we have in place for the staff and the students. So what we are going to suggest in January is to create an acceptable use policy, very similar to that the staff and students have to sign. So it's in line. So the board signing something that's very similar to the staff and the students.
So
Same
work in
content,
progress,
same
yeah.
notion, but just a different format, yes.
It would cover everybody.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.
Residents forum, agenda items only. Board policy 0167 encourages community participation in every meeting. However, the board requests that the public respect a reasonable time limit when commenting on agenda items.
Scott Rush.
Couple questions from Scott.
It's for someone just you.
Couple questions from Mr. Brown regarding the bills. I saw on the bills list that our attorney fees are $23,000 this month, which is way out of high compared to what we typically see. Well, I know there's a reason for it. And then the second question is, there's a bill for $3,700 for Edwards Engineering. I'm assuming that's building referendum, but we may use them for other things. So if we can get clarification on that one as well.
Go ahead, you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. We try and keep the bills as low as possible. We understand that any dollar that's spent on attorneys is not a dollar that goes to the classroom. And that's not a good spending of public dollars. That said, the district has been, quite frankly, and I don't mean this is not a critique. I don't need another unfair practice charge about, the responses that the board has had to make to the association, but the association has made numerous claims to PERC that have required the Board of Education to respond to those claims. In fact, I want to say, I don't have it off the cuff, but I want to say in the last 3 months, I want to say there's probably been 7 that have been filed that have required the Board of Education to respond. And then when those responses were provided, there was a briefing schedule that was done. There was a restraint for arbitration that had to be filed. So I wholeheartedly agree. That's not the way, listen, I love what I do. I represent school districts throughout New Jersey. And I really enjoy doing it and helping resolve problems. And that's what our job should be. And unfortunately, we've kind of gone down a very challenging track because of this contentious, unfortunately contentious, and I believe unnecessarily contentious back and forth.
Thank you.
The second question was about Edwards Engineering. That's the closeout for the referendum project for the scope of work that Edwards Engineering performed for the project. For Edwards, yes.
Our instructional, recommend motion to approve the instructional items A through H. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
All right, Mrs. McVeigh,
Yes.
Mr. Rosetti,
Yes.
Mr. Bonnicky,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Pakwakua,
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett,
Yes.
Mr. Dalio.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Personnel, recommend motion to approve the following personnel items A through M. I have a motion.
Motion. Second.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question on item L. Is that amount prorated or could you clarify the time period?
That-
Coverage statement?
That is going to be from December, mid-December until March 31st.
Okay, moving on to roll call.
Thank you.
Karen, is that, you're good?
Yes,
good?
thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. McVeigh,
Yes.
Mr. Rosetti,
Yes.
Mr. Bonnicky,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Paprikua,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett,
Yes.
Mr. Dowling.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Operations. Recommend motion to approve the following operations items A through B. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. McVeigh,
Yes.
Mr. Rosetti,
Yes.
Mr. Bonnicky,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Paprikua,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett,
Yes.
Mr. Dowling.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to report of the board secretary, business administrator. Recommend motion to approve the report of the board secretary, business administrator, items A through N. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Who was my second there? I'm sorry.
Karen, second.
Thank you. Mrs. McVeigh,
Yes.
Mr. Rosetti,
Yes.
Mr. Bonnicky,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Paprikua,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett,
Yes.
and Mr. Dowling.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, there are no informational items. Moving on to residents' forum general topics. Board policy 0167 encourages community participation in every meeting. However, the board requests that the public respect a reasonable time limit when commenting on any topic.
Again, two questions, both for Mr. Dalio. The first is, I went back to May 2020 through all the board agendas and counted up, we've had now 34 resignations. Now, I know this is a national problem, not just a Pinelands problem. And I understand that Dr. McCooley is in charge of overseeing the day-to-day, but how concerned is the board with the amount of resignations we've been getting, not just teachers, but staff? Have we looked into, is it because there's no contract, because there's just teacher burnout in the pandemic era? Is it, they're not happy with the workplace here? Have we looked into that, and are we concerned, and are we going to do anything to try to incentivize our remaining staff to stay and not leave to other districts? And then the second question, do you want me to wait?
No, go ahead. You can ask it.
My second question is, and I don't want to start a whole debate about the SOS signs. We all know what happened. They were out. My question is, if any evidence arises that there's any staff, whether it be a teacher, an admin, custodian, anything, and evidence arises that finds that they went onto private property to remove signs, is that something the board is going to deal with in a clear, transparent manner so that the community knows it was done?
Well, your second one I can answer. I think that's a hypothetical, completely. The board, at this point, no one's come forward to take responsibility or claim to the SOS. So personally, I thought it was a little insulting to the staff that works here, and teachers and the students, because there was no clear purpose behind it. It just threw some signs in the ground. I really can't answer your hypothetical because it's not here to even, for the board to even.
We don't
address.
enforce trespassing on other people's property. I mean, right? That's the police job.
Absolutely, Mr. Bartley, you're right.
It's nothing to do with the school.
No, can I
mean,
say
right.
something too, Alden?
Yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead. You go ahead.
The other piece is, I did contact the township after numerous parents and staff members were very upset about the signs. And after speaking with the zoning department, the signs were not in compliance with the ordinance. So they have to say who is responsible for them. they have to be accounted for. And just as with an election, they're only there for a certain time period, the township was going to remove them regardless.
But whether the signs follow ordinance or not, it doesn't give anybody, me or anybody else, the right to go on private property and take them down.
So I, like Mr. Dalio said, I don't know a lot about the signs. The ones I've seen were not on private property. If they are, that's their prerogative to have the sign.
And I'm going to defer to the superintendent as far as your first question, because I don't have all the details. as far
Sure,
as the
yeah, and
certifications.
you're assuming that all the people that have resigned or moved or gone to different positions are teachers, and they're not. We've had a lot of,
Actually 14 are teachers out of
Right.
the 34. and I
so,
did
right,
say that.
and if you're gonna do that type of statistical analysis, you really need to compare that to other school districts as well. From what I understand nationally, millions of people are losing their job or quitting their jobs because of COVID or some type of mental health situation. The other thing to evaluate is our starting salary at Pinelands, which is something that we are trying to work on with the association because it is more attractive to work in conditions where your starting salary is much higher. So that is something that we'd like to look into.
I'm not putting blame on anything. I just want to make sure we're taking the steps that we need to take to retain the staff that we have.
Absolutely. We
But we
do,
also
you know,
exit-
we do plenty of surveys and climate surveys with our staff. We do exit interviews when people leave, and we have that information. And I would say the bigger concern would be if we couldn't replace the positions, and we are able to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? All right, moving on to board forum. Mr. Bonnicky, start with you.
Swell. I say swell a lot. Anyway, last meeting for maybe 1 year. I do look forward to campaigning in 342 days or so. But very grateful for the opportunity to serve our district, our board, and our community. I have 2 items on my Christmas wish list. Bear with me. They're easy. So contract talks through a collaborative, amicable manner, find a timely resolution while being financially sound for the taxpayer and monetarily rewarding for our staff, our educational staff, faculties and grounds and support staff. I think that's something that needs to be done sooner than later, and certainly in an amicable, timely fashion. And this other one, just a little topic of morale building program and activities. I'm sure there's things already in place and it's not an overnight implementation, but to continue in any of the programs through the efforts of admin, department heads, and PEA leadership, continue to develop multiple yearly events, activities beyond professional development that fosters camaraderie in our school amongst our staff. I think the happy workplace is certainly promotes positivity that transcends from staff to students. And what better to walk through those doors happy than, oh boy, here we go again. So I just think that's something that collaboratively can be achieved. The benefits would be endless. And lastly, hey, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. Ms. Martin.
Ms. Martin?
Yes, I said that.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy 2022. I would just like to say how awesome I thought the production of Clue was. I've been to so many of the shows. This year, I got to experience it as the parent of a stage crew member. And boy, I mean, everyone just worked so hard. Just such a great production. But also, I'd like to mention the number of parent caregiver volunteers there. I mean, they just give so much to the success of the theater program. I was very impressed. I mean, just a great bunch of people. I will gladly come back and sell 50/50s with you.
Thank you very much. Ben, we're gonna get to you last.
I would like to piggyback on the Merry Christmas, the happiest holidays to everyone. I'd also like to take just a couple seconds to thank the staff here at Pinelands, from the administration to teachers to buildings and grounds, custodial, lunch staff, everybody. There's just so much negativity out there in the world, and I just want to take the time to say thank you. Under the most difficult of conditions, Pinelands is thriving, and it's due to the leadership, teachers, everybody in the trenches, working with our children and doing everything they can do to help to make them succeed. And we don't take enough time to thank everybody for doing that. So from my heart to yours, happiest of holidays, and thank you.
Thank you. Kim?
Perfect. Perfectly said. Thank you for all the donations, for everyone who donated again. Lifers like Barbara Wilkinson. Congratulations to Dara Stack. I'm heartbroken. I can't believe she's leaving. She's a delight. So great luck where you're going, and congratulations to everyone who's new, and much luck there as well. And have a great holiday, everybody. Karen, thank you for your time and effort. And Jeff, of course, I know I'll see you.
Right.
Just thanks, everybody. See you next year. That was it.
All right, well, thank you for the presentation. So it's wonderful hearing about all that stuff. Thank you for Mr. Bartlett for bringing up the grading policy. It's one of the things I like when we talk, because I like to hear other board members talk and ideas pop in my head. And just when he was saying that, I would be very interested to see if there's like research, because I don't know how long they've been doing that for, to 55%, but that research to see how these students continue to score into the future. I just wondered what the research says about that, something to look forward to. Thank you, Mr. Molesky, for explaining the PRIDE program to us. It sounds like it has a lot of potential. I just hope that when we continue to implement this, we're listening to student feedback as we adjust certain things. I also saw the Clue, which was phenomenal. It was absolutely incredible. The performances, the cast, the stagehands, it was wonderfully done. I also got to see the winter concert. That was another excellent performance here. Pineland never ceases to amaze me with that. It's just awesome watching all these things. I want to say thank you to Karen and Jeff for your service and dedication to Pinelands. Karen, I've learned so much from you over the last 2 years. I'm going to totally miss your attention to detail. And other than that, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. See you next year.
Thank you, Mr. Rossetti. All right, Karen.
Yeah, I was going to echo some of the comments from our fellow board members. Congratulations to both the students and the staff that participated in both the play and the winter concerts. Kicking off sports seasons, good luck to our winter sports teams. And I will say it's bittersweet. So I look forward to not serving on the board and wish you all the best of luck. I will say after 9 years, as I reflect back, Pinelands has come a long way in the 9 years that I've served on the board. I am proud of the service I've put in here. I hope that I've been a small part of us trying to move us forward. And we really do have amazing staff here. And you make a difference in students' lives more than you know. So I want to thank you all for that. And we do need to do a better job of recognizing it and just putting it out there. So I want to wish the best of luck to the staff, the admin team, and the board certainly going forward. And Merry Christmas to all. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Karen.
And to all, a good night.
I just real couple things, Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy Holidays. Thank you for the presenters for tonight. They were definitely detailed, and I learned a lot from the people that presented. Thank you. Again, Mr. Rossetti took the words right out of my mouth, so I'm going to repeat it. For 2 years that I was sat on this board with you, Karen, your attention to detail is unsurpassed. And a lot of the questions that you asked or the concerns you brought up were thought-provoking, and it made me take a step back to think about what my decision would be based on listening to you. But I think you were a huge asset to the board and to Pinelands. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And that's all I have. So a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Second.
All ayes.
Aye.
Aye.
Nays. Abstentions, and don't forget my buddy over there, Mr. Bonnicky, but you know. Thank you too. Sorry. All right, thank you.
Reminder that the next meeting of the Board of Education is Tuesday, January 4th, reorganization meeting at 6 PM. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.